plan to murder Jews in Poland. Germany then refused to take this man back because at that point he was not a German citizen. Protesters have regularly gathered outside of Poli's home, pushing for his deportation. President Trump tasking U.S. Ambassador to Germany Richard Grenell with ensuring Poli's deportation was at the top of his list when he arrived to his post in Berlin. The White House touting the success of this, saying in part, Poli's removal sends a strong message the United States will not tolerate those who facilitated Nazi crimes and other human rights violations, and they will not find a safe haven on American soil. It is unclear if the 95-year-old former Nazi will face prosecution in Germany. But how about that, guys? And this was one of those, this was an ambassador whose his confirmation was delayed for so long, Richard Grenell. He finally gets into the post, and this is a big story. It is a big story. We thank you very much, Rob. Yeah. Rick Grenell, the ambassador to Germany, one of the things the president said to him when he went over, he said, try to make sure that guy gets deported. Right. We're trying to get a hold of Rick Grenell. He could be on the program within the next hour or so. What's interesting about this particular guard is apparently he was described as being indispensable in the role of 6,000 in one of the largest massacres of the Holocaust back in 1943.
According to the statement from the press secretary, it says on November 3rd, 1943, approximately 6,000 Jewish children, women and men who were incarcerated at this labor camp were shot to death in one of the single largest massacres of the Holocaust. It says by serving as an armed guard at this labor camp and preventing the escape of Jewish prisoners during the Nazi service, he played an indispensable role in ensuring that the Jewish victims met their horrific fate at the hands of the Nazis.
Why now? I mean, how does he last in this country for 4 decades, 5 decades? Why do we have to go now into Queens, New York, actually where the president's dad had most of his properties during his heyday, and rip him out now? I can't believe it took this president this time to combine with Germany to get him out.
95 years old. They removed him from his wheelchair and put him into the ambulance, and that's when he let out this loud cry.
He had his citizenship revoked when they figured out, because when he came over, he said, during the war, I worked on a farm and I worked in a factory. And in 2003, they ordered him deported. And it has taken all these years for it to finally happen. And extraordinarily enough, they still say not enough evidence, perhaps, to charge him with wartime.
Wow. It was those ICE agents who went and arrested him and deported him back to Germany. And ICE agents were at the White House yesterday. The president was calling them heroes, saluting them. It was called the Salute to the Heroes event. It was a special ceremony where he honored 2 agencies, ICE and Customs and Border Protection.
So he also impromptu, he winged a lot of the speech, like he always does, and he also called up agents to speak about different arrests that they've made and their thoughts about being honored and hailed at the White House. Here's the president.
Everyone here today from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Customs and Border Protection, I want to let you know that we love you, we support you, we will always have your back. A coalition of open borders, extremists, and to me that means crime, people that don't mind crime, have waged an unprecedented assault on American law enforcement. We will not stand for the vile smears, the hateful attacks, and the vicious assaults. They have no courage, they have no guts, they just have big, loud mouths, and we don't want to put up with that. And I just want you to know that you're loved and you're respected.
Loved and respected, and you are heroes, he said. It's been very clear that the president has elevated the issue of immigration once again to the forefront as we march toward the midterms. And there's one of the Border Patrol agents he honored, asked him to come up, say a few words, and he did. But in June, a senior Trump administration official said the Democrats were on a political suicide march over things like abolishing ICE, and vowed that the president would engage in the debate. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about ICE. We're talking about the wall, and the president is talking about how the Democrats are for open borders. And the big question is, are you? Because that will figure out where you align before you vote in
This
November.
has to make these agents feel so loved and supported, because so many people have said abolish ICE. And when I see police officers on the street and I'm with my daughter, I always go up to them because I want her to see me thanking them and saying thank you for your service. I'm praying for you and your families, because they put on those uniforms every day and they go out and they put themselves in harm's way to protect all of us and keep our country safe. And they're just following the law.
It's important for people to see what an ICE agent looks like. Many don't. Number two, see them in uniforms, look very similar to the police officers. Number three, it's kind of a lonely job. You sit at the border, you wait for that moment, you do some great things, you have some challenging things, and no one's around. I mean, maybe they might see you in surveillance equipment, but then you sit there, usually in an area that's not really a very big town, and you do your job and you wonder if you're appreciated. And for the first time, maybe there's somebody in the White House who's making it abundantly clear they're appreciated. Meanwhile, at 8 minutes after the top of the hour, tell me who has said this before. My job as a comedian is to spread positivity, to make people laugh. I don't want to draw attention to what piss people off. Who has said that?
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart, in the past, one of the best comedians, most successful comedians in the country, a conglomerate in his own right, went and broke all his own rules last night.
Well, last night, the 33rd annual Video Music Awards were produced across the street from where we are sitting, and not surprisingly, they got political. Watch.
You never know what's going to happen at the VMAs. I mean, beefs pop off, bad language, people run to the bathroom and send out crazy tweets. It's basically like your typical...
In the last 3 years, they have lost 50% of their audience, and last year's viewership was the lowest on record. You got to wonder, is that because people get sick of the politics, or is it because people have a lot of other stuff to do?
Well, we don't want to hear the politics, or we're old and we don't know who any of these people are anymore.
I would say this. Should we also honor those people who were #1 with 8-track tapes? How many people are watching music videos anymore, period? I mean, MTV doesn't even roll music videos anymore. VH1, I can't even find it on my dial.
But they listen to a lot of songs on their devices, which is good. And by the way, one star who was honored last night was J-Lo. We're going to show you a little of her performance a little later on. She won the Michael Jackson Vanguard Award, and she showed up with A-Rod.
Well, she talked about, I know, I think they're a cute couple.
The American dream.
She talked about working hard and how she got to where she is by working really hard. So if you work hard, you can become famous and date A-Rod too. Right.
That's true.
Which is more important, the being famous, the working hard, or the dating A-Rod?
She looks so good.
So anyway,
I think she's so cute.
But she also pointed out she's an actress that was the first to make over $1 million in a role as a leading actress. And I think she's a really good actress, as a matter of fact.
I do too.
And regarding her message was really terrific. Anyway, let us know what you think about the VMAs last night across the street at Radio City Music.
And you might want to go online and look on highlights, because I'm sure they didn't watch.
We just showed them.
Right.
Yeah,
that's all the VMAs. We gave you 40 seconds.
That's all you need to see.
Right.
To say it. We boil them down to the important parts, just like the newscast.
I know. They're always so political. I hate that. Why don't they just sing? Okay, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines.
My takeaway is, if you work hard, kids, you too can date A-Rod.
There you go.
All right, let's get you caught up on your news, starting with this Fox News alert. The Taliban firing a pair of rockets toward the presidential palace in Kabul, Afghanistan overnight. Listen carefully as explosions are heard faintly during President Ghani's holiday speech. You could hear that, right? The first rocket landing not far from the presidential palace, the second near the U.S. embassy. Nobody was hurt. This comes just one day after President Ghani announced a ceasefire with the terror group. Microsoft stopped Russian hackers looking to steal data from conservatives ahead of the midterms. The company claims the cyber crooks made users think they were going to political websites, but they were actually going to fake versions of the public policy and U.S. Senate sites. The websites are now disabled. Microsoft says there are no signs that the hackers were successful. Remember the athletic nun who throws nothing but heat? Get it? Sister Mary Jo Sobiek, impressing baseball lovers around the world. Really impressive first pitch at a Chicago White Sox game. Well, she will be here live and join us on the plaza later this morning to show off her arm again, this time with the dunk tank. So who do you think should be dunked? Email us so you can cast your vote. Although I agreed to do this yesterday. I thought I was. I'm not sure. Somebody let me know so I can mentally prepare, I guess.
I think we're all prepared. It could be one of us.
Yeah.
Right.
We're asking viewers to write in and say who they want in the dunk tank.
They just want to know your wetsuit size. I'm getting some control room questions.
All right, Jillian, thank you very much. All right, meanwhile, Democrats don't like President Trump's immigration plan, but it was just fine when it wasn't his.
We all agree that we must protect our borders.
Illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally.
Our next guest is here to call out the hypocrisy, so stick around.
On immigration, we all agree that we must protect our borders, protect our workers, enforce our laws.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally.
There you've got a couple of prominent Democratic leaders who used to oppose illegal immigration and were all in on border security. So what happened in a couple of years? In a new op-ed, our next guest says it all comes down to one thing, and that is politics. Joining us right now is Washington Times columnist and Tea Party Patriots co-founder Jenny Beth Martin joins us from San Diego. Jenny Beth, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I'm confused. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi just sounded like the President Trump right there.
Right, exactly. In 2006, that's only 12 years ago, some 26 Democrats in the Senate voted for the Secure Fence Act, including Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Chuck Schumer. Today, they've done a 180 and they oppose a wall.
Why is that?
It all boils down to politics. The Democrats are doing whatever they can to appeal to their base. And right now, what their base wants more than anything else is to resist President Trump. In fact, we know this is accurate. All we have to do is look a few months ago. President Trump offered the Democrats a deal they wanted on DACA, but with 3 times as many illegal immigrants getting benefits than what Democrats were asking for. And they refused it, claiming to be because he wanted a wall. I think even if he hadn't asked for anything in return, they still would have said no because they have to resist President Trump.
But their message was confused, Jenny Beth, because they were so clear. We will do anything to make sure that the dreamers stay in this country. And then the president expanded the pool to 1.8 million. And it's like, nah, you know what? We want what we want, but we don't want him to get what he wants.
Right, exactly. And I think that they want what they want. And even if he didn't get what he wanted in return, they still don't even want what they want. They claim to, but they don't really. It's all just politics for them. They don't care about these people who are coming across the border who they claim to care about. If they did, they'd be looking for solutions. They're exactly what President Trump said yesterday at the Salute to Heroes event. Right. He said that the people who are demanding the abolition of ICE, demanding for ICE to be abolished, they have no courage, they have no guts, they just have really big mouths. And that's exactly right. They have really big mouths.
And ultimately what they want is they want control of the House, and they think this is going to be an issue that's going to deliver that for them. Jenny Beth Martin, Washington Times columnist, Tea Party Patriots co-founder. Jenny Beth, thank you very much for joining us on this Tuesday.
Thanks for having me.
You can read her column at foxnews.com. Meanwhile, speaking of immigration, President Trump says Republicans need to win in November to keep our border secure. Is he right? A debate is next. Plus, you're going to be dancing along with these Marines all day long. The story behind this viral video. Man, they can move. Coming up.
All right, some quick headlines now. Hillary Clinton coming out of the woods, kinda. The former Democratic presidential candidate, pictured there pointing, will reportedly headline 3 DNC fundraisers this fall. Can't wait for the speech. The events are scheduled for San Francisco, Chicago, and New York. You can step over the homeless along the way. Meanwhile, her daughter, Chelsea Clinton, is not ruling out a run for office. At a book festival in Scotland, the former first daughter saying, quote, "For me, it's a definite no now." Not now, I assume, but it's a definite maybe in the future because who knows what the future is going to bring. Ainsley, I'm going to look for that T.
It's a definite no now, I think is what she meant. All right. Thank you, Brian. Keep searching. President Trump aiming to curb the blue wave in the midterms, warning about the repercussions at a Democratic majority.
The fact is, people respect law and order, and they love our law enforcement. And I think we're going to have much more of a red wave than what you're going to see as a phony blue wave. Blue wave means crime. It means open borders.
All right, here to debate is RNC spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany and Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov. All right, I will start with you, Kayleigh. Do you agree with the president?
Agree with the president entirely. A vote for the Democratic Party in the midterms is a vote for open borders. It's a vote for the abolition of ICE. And you look at the House vote in support of ICE, 90% of Democrats either voted against the resolution or voted present, which is in effect a no vote. They want to abolish ICE. Ocasio-Cortez just the other week was campaigning alongside Occupy ICE LA, who has called ICE the Gestapo and called ICE the genocidal ethnic cleansing machine. This is our law enforcement, our hardworking men and women. A vote for Democrats is a vote for crime.
Jessica?
No. Just no to
you don't
all
agree
of it, of what Kayleigh just said. Well, because a vote for Democrats is a vote for an agenda that helps the middle class and the lower classes and gets people back on their feet. A vote for Democrats is a vote for equality, affordable health care. A vote for Democrats is not a vote for abolishing ICE. There are only a few candidates across this country we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of candidates running that are interested in abolishing ICE. There are only 42 Democrat socialists on the ballot, and I know that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is really fun to go after. Listen, I've even done it a few times myself. She is not representative of our agenda. She is fringe, and her beliefs are. And I know it's a great media narrative, but if you want to look at the kind of campaigns we're running, look at Connor Lamb, look at Danny O'Connor.
Is Kirsten Gillibrand fringe? Is Kirsten Gillibrand fringe?
Oh, is she fringe? I mean, certainly not like Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, but if you look at the entirety of the platform.
They both want to abolish ICE. Are they fringe or not?
Well, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is. Kirsten Gillibrand is not, but that is certainly a left-leaning position that she would not have taken years ago and that a lot of people have been critical of her about. What she's doing right now and what she has been doing for the past few months are not things that the core of the party are necessarily thrilled with.
Kayleigh, what are your predictions for November?
My predictions are a red wave. I mean, look, yesterday we announced we are $100 million at the RNC ahead of the DNC in fundraising. We've made 30 million voter contacts. This president, under his leadership, the economy is wages going up for the first time in 10 years. This president is winning. And because of that, he will be rewarded in November. I do believe it will be close. History's against us, but I do think we'll ultimately prevail.
All right, Jessica, the Real Clear Politics polling average of generic congressional ballot has Democrats at roughly 7-point advantage over Republicans for November. But there are a lot of people out there that don't want to admit that they support this president because they're scared of being labeled a racist or what have you. And we saw that in the last election, and then he won. What are your predictions for November?
My predictions are that Nate Silver is probably about right, that there's a 75% chance that the Dems take the House. It's going to be a turnout game. Kayleigh knows that as well as I do. I think talk of waves is dangerous. We need to pick up 23 seats here. The Cook Political Report is out with some really interesting analysis that says we could fall a few seats short or we could get 40-plus seats. And the thick part of the distribution there is leaning towards picking up the 23-plus. But we've got to mobilize. The Dem enthusiasm is up. Kayleigh is right about their fundraising haul, and congratulations to you. But the DCCC and the Democrat Senatorial Committee is outpacing the Republican side there. So we got to get to the polls.
Kayleigh, what do you think about the Joe Manchins that are running in November? They have they're representing a red state, but they're Democrats, and their constituents love this president.
That's right. They're engaging in some fancy political footwork right now because they're out with ads. John Tester's out with an ad saying, hey, I supported the president. Joe Manchin, the same. They're cozying up to the president. But make no mistake, they have not been Trump allies. Their record proves it. They're not there on the tax cuts. They were not there on infrastructure. They were not there on immigration. They're not Trump allies. And it's time to get rid of these so-called red state Democrats.
All right, Kayleigh, Jessica, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Ainsley.
Have a great day.
Ainsley.
Thank you. Next on the rundown, PETA's latest target, Animal crackers. The boxes. Seriously. Plus, President Trump says an interview with Robert Mueller would be a perjury trap, and Greg Jarrett says the president is absolutely right. He joins us next to tell us why.
Wow, it's your shot of the morning. Multiple shots. U.S. Marines based in Okinawa, Japan, going viral for this dance video.
That is great. It's the remake of a popular Japanese song appropriately titled USA.
The song with the repeating lyrics, "Come on, baby, America," is about the country's obsession with the United States of America. The Marines are looking for a few good dancers. They are awesome.
That is so good.
It's off to them.
Wow, I could watch this all day.
Talk about great dancers. Look who's here.
Yeah, okay.
Not a great dancer. Do you have that reputation? A great writer.
Thank you very much.
Number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 weeks in a row. The Russian hoax. You got to pick it up.
Yes, it's doing well.
It is indeed.
Oh, the Russia hoax.
The Russia hoax.
No N on the end.
Greg, let's talk a little bit about this. The big news yesterday was that the president's attorney from White House counsel, Don McGahn, sat down with the special prosecutor, Robert Mueller's team, for something like 30 hours over 3 different visits. And now you worry that if whatever Don McGahn told the special counsel people, if the president were to sit down with them and his story is different than his counselor's story, he could get in trouble.
And Mueller would be disposed to believe the other person and not the president. Mueller has demonstrated time and again he cannot be trusted to be fair and impartial. So look what he did to Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn told the truth, and Mueller prosecuted him for lying. So the president runs a very real risk that if he sits down with Mueller, that Mueller will twist the facts and contort the law.
That's not what your lawyer told me.
And accuse him of lying. And especially now that we know McGahn has testified for over 30 hours before the special counsel.
If his general counsel has already testified for 30 hours, is it even needed for the president to sit down with him? Isn't his attorney the voice of the president?
I would argue that an inferior officer, which is what Mueller is, does not have a legal basis to even question the president exercising his constitutional authority. And where is it written that you can question the president about a non-crime called collusion? And it's no other relevant crimes. It's not conspiracy to defraud the government. It's not a Federal Campaign Election Act violation.
But a couple of things. They said the two topics that they can confirm that was discussed with McGahn in 30 hours, the two logical ones. Why does the president want Jeff Sessions to take back control? And James Comey, what was your mindset before? What was the mindset of the president before they fired him? So those aren't two shocking topics, but it does go to look as though he's pursuing obstruction, right?
Yes, it does, because I think he's given up. There was no evidence of collusion to begin with. And the FBI violated their own regulations.
But we don't even know what he has. But we don't know what Mueller has, correct?
No, nobody could know that. But I mean, it's the FBI has been investigating the case for a year, then the special counsel for another year. Congress has done innumerable investigations, interviewing more than 200 people, about 500,000 documents. So if there was some evidence of collusion, I think we'd know it at this point.
No kidding.
Does this quote from the president help or hurt? Let's take a look. Here's it from a tweet. So if I say something and Comey says something and it's my word against his from an interview, and he's best friends with Mueller's, so Mueller might say, well, I believe Comey, and even if I'm telling the truth, that makes me a liar. That's no good.
That's the Rudy Giuliani thing.
Yes. Now, I write about this extensively in the book about Mueller's conflict of interest. He's longtime friends, partners, and allies with James Comey. So how is it fair to the president? Who is Mueller disposed to believe? His friend who was fired by Trump or Trump? It's an obvious answer. So that's just one of the 3 different disqualifying conflicts of interest that Mueller has been ignoring with impunity.
Right.
All right, let's talk about... Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was just going to say, Mueller does have somebody he's trying right now. That's Paul Manafort, completely unrelated to the Russia charge. They figured out, well, maybe he committed bank fraud or tax fraud. Yesterday, interestingly, at the end of the day, the jury said, hey, Judge, can we deliberate for another 15 minutes? And people thought, They only need 15 more minutes? What does that mean?
Yeah, nobody can quite figure that one out. I will say this, when the jury sent out a question to the judge asking him to define reasonable doubt, that's music to the ears of defense attorneys, because in this particular case, they mounted a reasonable doubt defense. They didn't put on a case in earnest. They tried through cross-examination to create reasonable doubt. And they may have succeeded to some extent.
What is the definition of that? If you have any doubt,
there is no legal standard. We leave it to the discretion and determination entirely of the jury. It's up to them. It's not likely he committed a crime, or probably, or maybe. It's got to be beyond a reasonable doubt. That doubt has to be reasonable.
18 counts, right? Could they be debating, could you be guilty on 9 counts and not guilty on 3 counts?
Sure.
So
absolutely.
Is it because of the 18 counts we're looking to 3 days? And is this a virtual win for for the defense already to get to this point? Because this was supposed to be a rout for the prosecution.
It's not a win until the jury comes in with their decision. But I never thought it was going to be a quick decision, because you've got got 18 different charges, and they're very complicated. Tax and bank fraud. These are not easy things to determine. And, the defense tried to say that the star witness is a liar, a thief, a con man, an embezzler, Rick Gates.
True.
Yes, who gets to walk out of the courthouse basically scot-free. So that doesn't generally sit well with jurors.
Right, and even if Paul Manafort is found not guilty, he's got another trial coming up, and the prosecution has said, and we've really got the goods on him with that.
But Steve, he could get a pardon in between after this trial if he's exonerated.
Well, you're pardoned for the dribbling of your coffee all down.
All right, I'll switch my tie.
Yes.
Look,
I'm going to give you my tie. I'm taking it off right here.
Greg pointed out.
I'm going to give you my pink tie. There you go.
Greg pointed out right before when we were in the last commercial break, and he said, "Brian, did you know you have coffee dripping all down your tie?" So I said, "Please bring it up. Please bring it up."
Brian has been so upset for the last 5 minutes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Brian went to go get another tie, so Jillian's behind you. And
I do have some shout wipes that I will offer him in just a couple minutes. Good morning to you. Let's get you caught up on some of the stories that we're following, starting with this. The Colorado man charged with killing his entire family now claims his pregnant wife murdered their little girls. According to an affidavit, Chris Watts says he killed his wife Shannon in a fit of rage after watching her strangling their daughter on a baby monitor. He claims she was upset after he asked for a separation. It's unclear if she knew about his affair with a coworker. Watts will be back in court today. Protesters topple a Confederate statue at the University of North Carolina on its first day of class. The fictional Silent Sam has been the target of vandals and protesters for decades. The school spent nearly $400,000 on security last year. At least one person was arrested. Animal crackers are breaking free. Nabisco is changing the packaging of Barnum's animal crackers under pressure from the animal activism group PETA. After 116 years, the animals will no longer appear to be inside circus cages. Instead, the animals will be roaming free in the grass and trees. The new boxes are on store shelves now, but I think the animals look very happy out there.
That's a pretty good looking box of cookies right there. Free-range cookies.
Yep, free-range cookies. I see. Very good, very good.
I'm going to go get that shout wipe.
All right, thank you very much. Meanwhile, let's go out to the streets of New York City, and Janice Dean, the weather machine, joins us, and it's a pretty nice start to this Tuesday.
It is fantastic. This is kind of a taste of what's to come, sort of fall-like weather. 68 right now in New York City, and the humidity, is almost non-existent. It's beautiful. It's fantastic for our hair. Let's look at the maps, and I will show you a hurricane, my friends. This is Lane. This is a major hurricane, a doozy that could affect the Hawaiian Islands later this week into the weekend, perhaps as a hurricane. We're going to see some tropical storm advisories being posted probably today. 150 miles per hour. That would make it a major Category 4 dangerous system. There are your temps today. Again, beautiful, beautiful start to our morning across the Northeast. We do have some strong to severe storms that are going to move across portions of the interior Northeast and then into coastal Northeast locations as well tomorrow. So we'll keep an eye on that. But meanwhile, certainly if you live in the Hawaii area, we are keeping an eye on Hurricane Lane. Back inside.
Indeed. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Meanwhile, Jillian brought Brian out a shout wipe. He's trying to shout that out.
I'm not sure that's going to work. We're going to try to find Greg and get you where Greg's
I have to
tie.
interview Chris Hogan next. I got to look my best.
Greg, if you're watching and you're still in the building, please bring your tie-in for Brian.
He doesn't have cable in his office.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead, Brian.
Go ahead, Steve. I'm shouting it out.
He said he was escaping persecution and came to the United States as a refugee, but really, he's an ISIS killer. How could that happen? Calls for answers are intensifying.
Well, you shouted out in silence. We can tell you this. Jason Chaffetz, David Bossie, and Ben Shapiro are all live, and more than half of millennials say that they expect to become millionaires. Chris Hogan from Ramsey Solutions has a reality check.
He's got the best idea.
Next.
No tie.
Money stuff works, right? We don't come here aware of it. We have to learn it. And if your parents don't teach you, you've got to find that knowledge on your own so you don't get caught up in the same traps that always get people.
How did you learn?
Oh, I learned the hard way. I signed up for a credit card on a college campus and did $7,500 worth of stupid over 3 years. But it took me a long time to pay it off. So I want to help other people prevent that problem.
And a couple of things that you bring up, grow your knowledge, do some millennials do,
Yes.
listen to podcasts and shows about money rather than just shows about things that might be your hobby, right?
That's right. I think if we get smarter, what we can do is prevent from making the same mistakes. We can make steps and take steps in the right direction to help us grow our money.
Real simple. Find out what your expenses are and find out what your income is and try to balance it out.
You really do. You need to know your numbers. And I tell people to be a CEO, right? I want you to be a chief everything officer over your financial situation, but also a money boss. Tell money where to go instead of wondering where it went.
A lot of people say my life is dramatically underfinanced. If that is indeed the case, you got to cut something back. You got to live with somebody.
That's right.
You got to move out a little bit further away from work where things might be cheaper.
Dial back your expenses. Take control. Make the sacrifices now. It'll pay off later.
And lastly, grow your money by investing. What if you don't have much money? What do you mean investing? I'm just barely paying my bills, Chris Hogan.
Well, you know the deal about inflation. It's hovering around 3.5% to 4%.
Right.
If we're not growing our money, it's shrinking. So, Brian, once people get out of debt and they build an emergency fund, start to invest using your 401k and 403bs.
So what you did is not talk to the rich and famous. You talk to the rich. You have a new book coming out called Everyday Millionaires: How Ordinary People Built Extraordinary Wealth and How You Can Too. What did you study for this book? I know you know money, but you wanted to do something different.
We really did. We went out into white space. I wanted to know, what does the typical millionaire look like? What are they doing? What are their habits? So we plugged in, dialed in, researched, got their stories, got stats that are going to blow your mind on what they're doing, how they did it, and how they grew their wealth. So I'm excited about the stories as well as the content that I'm going to be giving to people on January 7th.
So I know you know this stuff already. When you're studying other millionaires, what are your takeaways that when you were done with this book, you go, I didn't know that?
Well, I tell you, the biggest thing for me was the myth. I thought in order to build wealth, you had to come from money, right? Another one was I thought you had to have a high income. And the reality is very few had a six-figure income. So what it's showing us is that everyday people have the opportunity. They just need the right kind of skill set and the right kind of guidance.
That's a message which goes against what many people say millennials are for, and that's socialism. You're not for that.
No, I'm for people helping people, but we have to help ourselves first.
Chris Hogan, thanks so much for helping us.
Good to see you,
I
my
appreciate
friend.
it. And you have made me feel cool without a tie, but when I come back, I get Greg Jarrett's tie, I understand, according to reports. Straight ahead, the video is disturbing. Police officers verbally harassed on the street, and it turns out they have to just take it. It's the new policy. Will we ever be able to end the war on cops? Our panel discussion next. Plus, a new conservative women's magazine is looking to reclaim feminism from liberals. Meet the college student behind it. That story next.